Brilliant. So, as I say, we've got a panel discussion now. So we've got some sort of frequently asked questions that we would like you guys to answer, and then after that we'll open the floor. But if you have got follow-on questions, please do raise your hand or ask them. That's okay. So if I can just quickly get you, I know we've just done introductions, but if you could just quickly just say who you are and your relationship to Prize Court, that would be brilliant.
Hi, I'm Charlie and I'm a teacher here at Prize Court.
I'm Helen and I'm the school principal.
I'm Vicky and I'm a mum to a student here.
And I'm Sue Piper, I'm Director of Learning here at Prize Court.
Perfect, brilliant. Okay, so the first question that we've got is, what do we mean by autistic young people with complex needs? Sue, did you want to
Yes,
do that one?
I could do that one. I could talk forever, so if we've got a time on these things, I better be careful, haven't I? No, it's fine. I won't. I'm going to have to be brief anyway, aren't I? So I think it's just really important, and Vicky and I were talking earlier, that if we're not careful, those autistic young people who can represent themselves are the people that are speaking about their life as autistic autistic people. But actually we have a real complex group of young people who aren't able to talk out. So why are they so complex? Well, number one, they are struggling to manage the whole day. From the minute they wake up, their anxiety levels are so very high, where they're trying to navigate the expectations of the day ahead of them, and they don't have those kind of innate ways of working that you and I do. We've got organisation in our heads where we think, right, I must get dressed, I must go clean my teeth, none of that naturally happens with our young people. So that's really, really difficult for them. So that's how we kind of need to support them at Prize Court and help them to build those routines. Added to that, there's so many sensory issues. So where Bethany is clicking away with the camera, and I've got used to ignoring that, but that might be really, really difficult for some of our young people because of their complexities with regard to sensory needs. The lights would be too bright, there might be a noise there, someone's just coughed, someone's drinking from their water. You know, all those sorts of things would distract me so much that I wouldn't actually be able to speak or follow the directions you're giving me. So the complexities on the level of sensory is something that I don't think any of us can imagine, and it might even be too much with my cardigan on. That might itch me, scratch me, be painful. Okay, so we have to think about all those sorts of things. And then, as was mentioned earlier, another part of their real complex needs is the fact that actually they don't have functional language, and you can call that whatever you'd like. You could say they're pre-verbal, you could say they're non-verbal, but actually even those who have some verbal language here at Prize Court, it's not functional. It's not, I want this, I feel this, I need help with this. It tends to be about something they're interested in if they do speak. So it might be that, Sue, last time we were on the video, what did we say? And a young man will remember from 10 years ago exactly what I said, exactly what he said, and what video we were on. But if I turn around to him and say, would you like a drink? I might not get an answer. So, and then we've got all the young people who don't actually have a voice. So if you don't have a voice, how are you going to communicate what you need? That's real complex needs, isn't it? We need to put in place things to help them to be able to communicate their every need. We end up second guessing so much, because if you don't second guess, you can't teach, you can't get onto that next stage. And so what's the result? The complex needs end up being what some people refer to as challenging behaviours. Well, I think I'd be quite challenged if I was sat here and I needed the toilet. I might think, well, how am I going to get out of here? How am I going to go? I want to drink, or I've got a headache today, or I'm feeling too hot. How am I going to say that? How am I going to let somebody know that I need help? So,
Sue, can I just say while you're on that?
Yeah.
It's not just the letting somebody know, it's the person that you're trying to let know, understanding what you're trying to tell them. I think that's where the frustration comes in. So it may be that our young person has learnt the sign for toilet, but if you're somewhere and that person doesn't recognise what you need and can't meet that need that you've worked so hard to communicate, and that need isn't met, for whatever. And I think that they possibly live in fear of being somewhere where somebody won't recognise their very, very limited communication skills, and I think that causes a lot of the anxiety and very upsetting.
Absolutely. I think that's what this panel's about. That's perfect. I agree totally with you. And actually, like I said, we second guess, but you go through a repertoire sometimes, because you're right, a young person might have learnt to sign, minibus to them might be that. Well, minibus is more this.
Yeah.
But we have to learn to know that's what it is, and you pass that information on, and you keep passing that information, but you also try and teach the young person the universally recognised signs, the universal way to communicate with someone, so that they can get the help they need. I mean, one of the key simple things we do is we wear blues. It doesn't matter who you are in the organisation. It's really important that a young person thinks, you're someone that can help me. Okay, so we try to let them realise that they could come up to any one of us and take a hand and perhaps try and get some help. So that's why we're all trained the same, so we can help deal with some of these complexities. I mean, like I said, you could talk forever. At the end of the day, our young people are living very complex lives, and we have to try and get inside their world and to realise what they're feeling on a day-to-day basis, which I would say is a very high anxious level, and they're trying to navigate something that is very, very complicated, and every response they get is a different response every single day, because it's a different person or they're faced with a different challenge. And actually you can only admire their problem solving skills and their resilience to cope with every single moment. Okay, so that's the starting point.
Yeah, that's a great overview, thank you. Looking specifically about teaching and education, something we often get asked is, do we follow the national curriculum here at Priors Court? Hello, did you want to?
So here we have 7 areas of learning, which I think Sue might talk about in a bit. But one of those 7 areas of learning we call functional academics. And as an independent special school, we don't have to follow the national curriculum. But what we did a few years ago was we took the national curriculum and we had a look at all the core and the foundation subjects, so your maths, your English, your geography, your history, your design technology, and we went through the statements and we were like, right, what is relevant to our young people to need to know? You know, post Priors Court, what do we need to teach them so that when they leave us at either 19 or 25, what's going to be most useful for them? So something like geography, it might not be around rivers and whatever. I stopped geography at 14, so I don't. But it'll be, what's the weather today and what clothes do I need to wear? It might be, I can go, some autistic people have difficulties with generalising their skills, particularly our youngsters here. So it's to know, actually, I can eat food in Bradbury Hall, I can eat food in the classroom, I can eat food and a picnic, I can eat food in a picnic on the grounds, I can eat food in a picnic on the woods, I can eat picnic at the seaside, which is also giving different environments and things like that.
Can I just butt in there as well? So I'm sorry, I'm going to keep butting in. I'm going to keep
lovely.
You'll all be like, is she attending? I won't go again. But that's what that part of it is, being able to transition a skill. And I'm just seeing this with Frankie for the first time. It's mind-blowing. It probably doesn't seem big to anybody that doesn't have an autistic person in their life, but for many years, he was nearly 15, and we have these rituals. So we spend a lot of time with him using his own signs and doing something just in one place. So, for example, with me, in his room, only with me, sometimes with my mum in his room, he likes to have clips of he has the controller and he says, he's saying to me, this is a bus, and he's saying roar for red, and red bus, man on a horse, on a track, then he's a tractor, and we're doing all this, and this is great, and this goes on, and it can go on for hours and hours, for, like I say, years and years. He can't take that skill into another place. This week, we were out in our car, and he pointed, and he said, red car, and I was like, red car, red car. It was real.
Sharing information.
He took that skill, which is so new. It was just groundbreaking. And then, so he's able now to just move on with something. Now he's done that once. It opens up his whole world, because it isn't just about. He can only eat chocolate on an aeroplane. He eats chocolate things on an aeroplane. If I gave them to him anywhere else, he would go crazy. But, so, I might be able to get him a chocolate finger that he'll eat somewhere else. So it's really important that we don't just look at the skills that they've got in one place, that they are able to take them into another area, and that's sorry to butt in, but yeah, you know, that was huge for
and
us.
just following on from that, like sometimes, you know, a lot of parents when they first come out, what about handwriting? Well, handwriting comes from fine motor, so our writing curriculum is often around fine motor, and we work with our OTs on site, and it might be things like unscrewing lids. So, but they might be taught that sat at a table and like, let's put this in here, and we'll put the lid on, and we'll screw it up, and we'll unscrew it. But then they practice that in the kitchen at home. They'll practice it at the snack table there, because it's such an important. I mean, as I'm getting older, unscrewing lids is getting harder as well. But, so I feel the pain. But you know, it's about practicing those really key skills, and you know, handwriting for some is very important, but it's the fine motor skills, because that will help with your dressing. It will help with you know, cooking when you're like, you know, sprinkling herbs or anything like that. And then the other part, so not only is it skill based and generalising, but it's also enriching. So although we don't do hills and rivers and we will go on visits to things like that. So it's about the experience, because it's so easy for our youngsters to have a really narrow view of the world, and what we want to do is, you know, it could be quite safe to stay on Priors Court forever, and because we've got beautiful grounds, great resources, but we want, you know, we want our youngsters to actually go somewhere. We recently had a young man who went to the seaside for the day, and you know, to see his smile in the pictures and stuff, it was just lovely, because you know, his life is full of anxiety, and it was just great for him, you know, the relaxing rolling of the waves. And sometimes we need to plan that to make sure it's not a busy time, and that it's a quiet time to give him most success. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent.
On that subject, so I'm just going to mention on that while you're there, talking about taking our young people out and what Priors Court are able to facilitate. So Frankie's going to see Frozen on Sunday at the Drury Theatre in London. It's facilitated by the staff here, and you know, they're so well organised that he's going to be taking another young person out of the house with him, another young student. They'll go with 3 staff. I'll meet them up there to be the 4th person. But you know, this is an SEN showing at the theatre, so it will be suitable for them. But you know, I don't know any other setting that would say, okay, right, we know we need 3 staff, we need the bus, we need a risk assessment, where's the nearest place we can park, let's speak to the theatre about coming in through the back door, you know, how we manage this, let's do a story first, you know. And they you know, it's such a great opportunity for them, you know. It's just, you know, it's so important. And you know, Priors Court facilitate all these amazing things for our children that might not have been able to access these things in the, you know, in another world. So yeah, I'm going to keep butting in. Sorry.
Real life stories from
Yeah.
a parent
Absolutely,
and different friends,
yeah.
for sure.
Tasha, did you have a question? Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's say for instance, if one of the young people did express an interest in sort of history, geography, and things like
Absolutely.
that, would you follow then?
Yeah.
Go on to follow the national curriculum for it.
We would try and do it in such a way that it was meaningful for them. So some we haven't got any young people at the moment, but we have in the past, and it might be like a special interest. And so yeah, we will incorporate that. We have a young man, not history, geography, but he absolutely adores Ed Sheeran. So he does trampolining to Ed Sheeran, he does maths to Ed Sheeran, he does his exercise to Ed Sheeran, and that kind of motivates him. But for the first time ever, his parents were able to take him to an Ollie Murs concert.
Aww.
And it was just amazing, you know, to see those pictures. He was in the it was at Hyde Park or something. It was an outdoor one, but wow, you know, and they were just blown away that he was able to be able to do that. So yeah,
That's amazing.
So my next is Sue. I know it's hard to put it into quickly, but we have something that we call our 24-hour curriculum or working day curriculum.
yeah.
Could you just explain what that means?
Yeah, actually, that came up in conversation with somebody actually earlier today. So, what we mean by that is, my question always is, well, when does learning start and stop? That's what you've got to ask yourself. And I've already explained that the young people wake up in the morning. Well, they've got to learn straight away. They've got to learn that the alarm means you turn it off and you get out of bed. You've got to learn that then it's really important that you go dress. But dressing doesn't come naturally. So they've got to learn how to dress, how to put deodorant on, how to wash properly, how to clean your teeth. And you know, with all that becomes many sensory issues. So it's not something that's just going to happen. We have to do a lot of learning around that. I'm sure you'd like to share, but toothpaste isn't just a quick squirt on the toothbrush. It's the whole tube and any other tubes I can find. So that's learning. That's learning that you just need a pea-sized amount, and it's all those sorts of things. So that starts the day. That's learning. Learning's not just in a school context. Yes, we do run a school, but should a young person struggle to access the school, well, the learning will come to them in the home then, because it doesn't matter that we don't want the barrier to be the building. So that's part of an extended day. And then in the evening, we're not wasting time in the evening. How much can be learnt in an evening, like Helen just described and Vicky just described? It's so important to learn to go out into the community, to practice your math skills from earlier by buying something, by practicing your literacy skills because you've written your shopping list and you know what you're going to buy, by practicing your food tech by buying your shopping and coming back and cooking your own dinner. So that's where the extended day really helps, because you make what you learn at different points flow through so that you are learning at every single moment. And we do go back to that word generalising, because it's not just functional and being meaningful to the young people, because it does have to have a function, it does have to have meaning, but actually generalising. And I could have 10 million examples of where the young people can't generalise, like we just have, one shop is not the same as another shop, and sometimes we try and get a young person comfy with a particular type of shop, and then we might recommend to parents, do you know what, for some reason, and I still laugh about this, but I find young people are much better in Sainsbury's. Okay, I'm just saying that, we didn't have anyone from Tesco's or anything. Or actually might have to edit that, I forgot I'm recording it. But anyway, I don't know what it was, but that always surprised me, and I don't know whether it's to do with the aisles, the lighting, the recognition of the ori. I don't know, but I always had better experiences when I took the class to okay, so but then we can share that information with parents who then go, right, okay, well, when I come to Price Court for the day, I might go shopping, but I'll go here and I'll follow the list that Sue had set up or practiced, and I can do this, and then it's success, and then parents gain more confidence. Anyway, I'm going off piece, I realise that. An extended day means we don't stop learning. And even some people say to me, well, what about nights? You're learning through nights. Our young people don't sleep like you and I. Mm-hmm. They get up in the night and are ready to start their day. So that's when something like a visual schedule comes into play, where it just tells them that it's time to go to bed, because we need to make sure that, like everybody, they have the right amount of sleep to be able to cope with their next day. And sometimes we don't have that pattern straight away then young people come to Price Court, but then we'd be working as a multidisciplinary team. So somebody like Charlie, who is the teacher, would be saying they need a lot of exercise in their day. They need to be worn out. They need to feel exhausted by what you've been teaching today, because otherwise we're not going to get the sleep pattern. Just as much as Charlie might have to sometimes go, whoa, they only slept for 2 hours last night, this is going to be a tough day, but I'm going to try and keep them going to get through that day, to get that pattern going again. So it's about that whole team working together. So extended day and night, as I like to call it, has to happen. And there is never a moment when there isn't a learn, because it's tying your shoe, it's brushing your hair, it's noticing something like a red car and someone acknowledging that as functional language and an engagement, social interaction.
I'm just going to butt in on the sleep in there, sorry. So Frankie, until he was 5.5 years old, slept from 11 o'clock at night till 2:30 in the morning. Maximum 3.5 hours in 24 till he was 5.5 years old. We tried everything: hyperbaric oxygen therapy, vitamins, melatonin, things were prescribed. He was busy. We were racing around all day long, swimming, doing things constantly. He just could not sleep. That really impacted significantly on his life and on mine, because I'm actually only 25 and I look a lot older. It's lack of sleep. But, it really takes its toll on everybody. It's just, but here, now he's a resident here, they can't get him up in the mornings. And so when you're talking about a waking curriculum, he had that waking curriculum with me at home, and I couldn't function to be, giving him what he needed. I was his primary sole carer, and I was just, not good. So it was really difficult. But here now with this, with this 24-hour curriculum, he goes to bed. I come over 2 or 3 nights a week myself, and do his little nighttime routine because it's fun now. It's great. I mean, this is amazing. He has his shower. We do our words on the TV. I put his pajamas and stuff on him. I tuck him in bed. He gives me a kiss. It's all really, there's no self-injurious behaviours. He's not aggressive towards me, and he's happy to go to sleep. I'm now a parent and not just a full-time carer that felt that I wasn't meeting his needs. It's, and in the mornings they say he's got his medication at 8:30 and I'm gonna have to wake him up. He's catching up on all that sleep. Thanks, Frankie. Yeah. So it really is a 24-hour curriculum. So sorry to butt in there.
No,
okay.
Thanks for not butting in.
Okay.
Yeah, I wonder, so schedules, I wonder, Charlie, if you wanted to expand on that. I know one of the questions we had was around how do you teach someone that's non-verbal and the structure in the classroom.
Yes, obviously when it comes to kind of structure in the classroom, it's really important that there isn't huge amounts of distraction. I think if you think like a mainstream classroom, you've got all the display boards, you've got things dangling from the ceiling with numbers all over it, and for young people that is hugely distracting. And although it might be quite, functional at times, that can lead them to going away from the lesson which you've got planned. So we try to keep things quite minimal and only have things up in the classroom that is really necessary to the learning. In regards to the structure, we tend to use kind of natural dividers. So for instance, the desks, or you might have some cupboards in your classroom that you might create into kind of a reading area, or an area that's a bit more relaxing for some students that might need to have a little bit of time out. So that for us is really key. Also alongside that is the actual workstations themselves. So each young person has their own workstation, that's their space. They know that's their space. My class is actually the youngest group, so they're the ones that come in initially. They've not really had any experience of kind of being in a classroom with lots of other students with autism, and it can be quite a challenging environment for them. And that can be a real learn. It's just getting them to kind of match their schedules. So we'd have a picture of the young person's face. They would then, match it to, kind of a bigger version of their face, which we call a matchboard, in the classroom, and then that kind of encourages them to take kind of ownership of their schedule. So then they will take the group symbol off. They'll go and match it to group, and it kind of allows them to know what they're doing, and so there's no confusion. I did bring a couple of little bits and pieces as well, just to kind of show you. So if we were doing something and a student was struggling with understanding the concept of the lesson, we might use it to be a first and then. So first it might be something, this could be group, this could be anything, and then it would always be something quite rewarding, so a story or ripping or whatever they kind of want to do. It's just so that we kind of re-engage them back into the lesson. We also use a lot of kind of countdown boards and things. So we use a lot of different ones. So we might have stand timers. Another young person in my class has actually got a timer, like a digital timer, and she'll actually set that herself, so she knows, okay, I've got 5 minutes of playing with a bit of slime or whatever she's doing, and then when that finishes, right back on task. Let's recheck our schedule. Alongside that, obviously, when it comes to obviously teaching students that are non-verbal, it's kind of really important that the speech and language, they kind of, one of our ladies, Faye, she said to me, it's always stuck with me, that when you have a little baby, you constantly speak to the baby. You don't expect the baby to ever speak back to you, but you keep talking, you keep role modelling that language in the hope that obviously one day they will talk back to you. And it's exactly the same for our young people, that you're always role modelling that language. You're constantly talking, and it might, they might always be non-verbal, they might not talk, but they might have some communication. I've actually got a boy in my class at the moment who, he came to me last January basically mute, never made any sounds, even when he was quite unhappy, he was still quite silent, and you wouldn't have even known he was in the room really for when he was there, sort of thing. And then after about 6 months of being here, he really started babbling, so those babbling noises that a baby would make, and he's literally about 3 weeks ago, Mum messaged me actually when I was on over the Easter holidays and said, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe this. He literally just said his first word," and she sent us a video to the class, and he said, "Mum." And she was over the moon. I never thought he'd ever say anything, and it was amazing to see, and that is really key. And so we use things like these. You have to excuse this paper, but they're well used. So we would use, this is our core page, so we'd have things on here. Obviously they're all the same for every young person. Again, some young people will use this, some would use a grid system for the iPad, which kind of speaks back to you. Other students might have a written schedule if they can read. But again, our speech and language therapists, they will kind of do an assessment on that. But we always role model the language, and we're always building on by one. So if a young person can say, I want biscuit or something, we would always say, "Oh, I want more biscuits." So you're always building on that language by one rather than overwhelming. Here is on this side, we'd always have like a topic page or a complementary core, which is kind of just more language for the students that can do those things. But yeah, and that's kind of it, just constant role modelling, but also giving the young people kind of that space, not overloading them with a lot of language like I'm doing now. So yeah, just kind of being quite quiet, talking to them, allowing them, the processing time really, so that they can make a decision. You might say to a young person, right, we need to sit down now, and it might take them a minute to actually navigate their way to their chair and actually sit down, but that's okay. They're just processing that. Whereas if you would say sit down, that's quite annoying, and you might see some of those challenging behaviours that we were kind of discussing earlier. So yeah.
I'm just going to jump in again.
Yeah, please
just
do.
On that sit down. So what I experienced a lot with Frankie was that because he didn't respond, it takes a lot longer to process the verbal language. They would give an instruction, and then because he didn't respond to that instruction, they'd give a different instruction.
Yeah.
The same thing, sit down, then can you go on your chair? And then he's just trying to work out the bit of the sit down, and he's got to go right back to the beginning and try and process what you've just said, and then that's still not working. So they go, I'll get the chair. And they sort of, it's so confusing for them because they just need you to just wait. And if you're going to repeat that instruction, say the same thing again. Don't change your words. Give them plenty of time, and then use the same, instruction. And also, it's always about with what you want them to do, not what you don't want them to do. So there's no point shouting out, "Stop running!" All they've heard is running, and they're going to run. Yeah. You need to say walking. It's telling them what you're expecting, not what you don't want them to do, because they might only hear that last bit.
Yeah.
Do you think that's
absolutely? Yeah, and that's why visuals are so important to us. All the young people here, they need visual, even if the students that can actually speak, because you're only ever encouraging more speech. So it's really crucial that there's always those visuals in the classroom. So we'll use a schedule system, and some students will, I spoke about this earlier, but yeah, so it's just it's just definitely, you need to give them that time to digest exactly what is happening in the room, really.
And I know you probably want us to keep to some sort of time, but Charlie, an amazing teacher. I mean, when I went into her classroom at the beginning of the year, there were a lot of unregulated or dysregulated young people. But then that's how the extended curriculum works, because then we all agreed that those young people were going to go from the home to some exercise routine put on by the PE teachers, and then go into the classroom, because Charlie was going to get nowhere with her learning, because honestly I did sit there and went, whoa, this is different. And we had to work on it, and that's when sort of the extended day you can work in those ways to make sure that the young people are ready to learn.
That didn't quite work the first time, because then they would have that exercise and they were like, then I'm really geared up, so then they had to have like a calming after the exercise to then start the work. So, but
Charlie's got
rid
it.
of some of that.
It's so amazing.
Still need to tweak that.
It's so amazing. Amazing to walk in there now, because you've done a wonderful job. The young people are all sat together in a group, and Charlie is able to teach them some new things.
Yeah, it's that safe space as well. So like I said before, my students are the youngest ones. They come in from different environments. They've had different experiences in different schools, and a lot of the time they have failed. The other school placements have failed, and it just hasn't met their needs. So they've got a lot of kind of anxieties around being in other environments with other students, and that is definitely key. Like, I see that as the academic year goes on, we just keep to the structure, and we keep reinforcing those positive environments and experiences within school, and then over time you see with social interaction for the students as well, being around other peers. We do a lot of, like in my class, I try to incorporate a lot of turn-taking activities, just one-to-one experiences. We do like a play group where there's lots of different social interactions with different students that they might be in classes with, so they get to be around them. Even if they're not always engaging, they're still in the room, so then they feel safer and more comfortable, and you can really see that is something that encourages them. By the time we get to term 5, which we're in now, that they're much more, they're just confident, more confident within themselves, which is lovely to see. So
what differences do you see in young people through their education here at Priors Court? Vicky, I wondered if you wanted to share any differences you've seen.
So many. Frankie had been in a special educational needs setting initially, and it really failed. His behaviour became more challenging and he regressed significantly. It was frightening. So I removed him because I thought that I could not allow him to be damaged further. So I kept him at home for over 2 years while the battle went on to secure a place at Priors Court, because Priors Court is, in the opinion of all other parents that don't have children in Priors Court, it's like the golden, the best of the best of the best of the best. If you mention that your child is at Priors Court now, people actually don't think I'm being truthful, because it's, it really is, it's a massive achievement. So he was at home for 2 years. It was better at home because I was able to sort of manage his behaviour without other people doing things differently, which was really confusing for him. So anyway, he finally came to Priors Court, which was just incredible. As a day student for 2 years, 9 till 3, 5 days a week. He settled in really well. Initially, it was a bit tough for him. I brought him to school and collected him every day because I thought that he would struggle with the transport and that would make his day more difficult for him, and then he wouldn't be learning, and it would be disruptive for everybody, really impact on his sort of mental health. I always talk about his mental health because he's so anxious that I just think his mental health is at the sort of the core of his problems. There are lots of things going on with him, but he's so anxious. Somebody once said to me, imagine the moment of impact in a car crash, that moment, your anxiety at that absolute moment of impact, times that by 100, and he feels like that all the time. That's the state he's living in. So he came to Priors Court. He was so lucky. His teacher is just incredible. I know all the teachers are great, but Veronica is just fantastic. She took it slow with him. Changed his life. He wanted to come to school. It's school. He understood every morning it was school. He never put up a fight. He enjoys coming to school. And then it was tough because still was only sleeping 2.5 hours, and he used to sleep 3.5 hours, and then we got to 2.5 hours when it was sort of some school nights. Sometimes he didn't sleep at all, so he'd fall asleep in school, which the school were able to let him do because he needed to. He'd be really sort of like, I've had no sleep, and I know that feeling. So yeah, he came along. He had a lovely group of peers in his classroom that he's bonded with. He struggled weekends with not being at school. He really missed the structure. He struggled evenings. He struggled in the holidays. Holidays was so tough for him. He really likes that it's school, and the learning. He likes the learning. He's learning. You know, he knows all his colours. He's trying to verbalise his colours. He knows his numbers. He reads whole words. He's got a Spotify list with 2,000 songs on, and he can choose any one because he can read all of them. You know, and he's just so happy. So he became very, very, very sad for a while over Christmas. We were in crisis. We'd been trying to get a residential placement for a long time, but it's all about funding and who's gonna foot the bill. Everything's always about money. But it was absolutely what he needed. He needed to be a resident here because he needed a 24-hour day curriculum, and the good work that was being done in school, I felt that I was probably undoing at home because I wasn't able to give him what he needed. I didn't have the facilities. I can buy trampoline and have a trampoline in the house, and I can have therapy ball, and I can have special swings in the garden, and trikes, and I can do all these things, and I can try, but I'm still one person. I needed a tag team. I didn't have a tag team, and I've got another child that's waiting for a diagnosis who's 5, and my daughter who's older, she's also autistic. So it was really difficult to meet his needs. I felt like I was really failing him. He needed to be here with expert teaching all the time, and Christmas was just the hardest ever. I tried to take him away. It failed. He became very aggressive. He got to the point where he was trying to push me down the stairs. He was very physical with me. I ended up with a black eye. And he was sad. He was so sad. He would just spend hours and hours, in the shower crying, laying on the floor in the shower just crying. It was heartbreaking. It was just, could not continue. And then we got the placement. He started in January as a resident. We were worried that it might be difficult for him because he's very affectionate. He likes me to give him thousands of kisses on his forehead and rub cream in his feet and scratch his back, and he loves this. He likes me to get under the quilt with him, or 10 quilts with him. It's really hot. He likes it. So yeah, I thought, who's going to kiss his forehead and put cream in his feet? Who's going to do these things for him? He's going to really miss this because he used to have separation anxiety and attachment issues as well. And yeah, he's come in as if he's always been here. The bonus was that he is in the house with his 5 classmates that he's known for 2 years. Teaching has remained the same, which is really, I think, really good that he stayed with the same teaching group and the same teacher, because he didn't then have lots of different changes. The transition was just overnight at winter. For the first 3 months, I cried every day, mostly all day when he left. And I would get really frustrated with people that would say to me, "Oh, you can do what you like now." I'd just, I won't say what I wanted to do because I have a video in this, but they have no understanding at all of that. I was in the stages of, I was grieving. I was in the first stage of grief every single day for 3 months. It was like a death. It's so hard when you've cared for somebody for so long and you understand what their needs are. I know his signs. I know that means dad. I know that means mum. And I know that means nan. But it probably doesn't to anyone else. And so I would really worry that people wouldn't know that when he does this, that means Captain Barnacles from Octonauts. But they're not going to say Captain Barnacles. It's going to be really frustrating. So it was really tough. But the journey's been so good because Priors Court have been so supportive. I mean, I pester them daily, at least twice a day. That never stops. Sometimes I might have 5 conversations in a day. And I like that there's sort of real honesty about, on Saturday, Frankie wasn't having a great time. And I spoke to one of the team members in the house who said, he's really struggling now. I don't want to ask you. And I said, I'd rather know. I'll be over in an hour, and I could, and I can. And it's much better for me that there's honesty. And they say, do you know what? It probably would help him if you came over. And I came over and he needed to see me. And we went out and got McDonald's, and we did our little routine of the TV and the shower and the bed and, put him to bed. And it was great. And rubbed cream in his feet and scratched his his back and his arms and his legs now. Sort of full, and it's just so nice. And he's learning so much. I'm seeing him taking some of his skills into different places. He's much more verbal. He did something as well this week that he's never done before. So normally with his vision, so he has a book that looks like this, his communication book that he carries around, but not with me. Only at school. He cannot, if it comes home or comes near me, it's going in the bin, or he's going to get, it's going out the car window. It has to go. He doesn't like to communicate this way with me. The other night, he was, something on the TV he was pointing to. I didn't know what it was, so he went and got his communication book and showed me the symbol, and this was like, whoa, genius. Maybe he thought, you're too stupid, you don't know what this book's all about. What's the point in using a communication book with you? But he obviously had a little bit of faith in me and knew that I could work it out. So that's really good. I initially thought, I can't bear to leave him overnight. I'm going to have him home at night when he's a resident. I'll just pick him up at 9 o'clock and take him back in the mornings, And then I thought, oh, no, it's going to be hard for him, confusing. Maybe I should just pick him up on a Friday, or maybe just a Sunday so he goes back to school on a Monday. How will we manage all that, bearing in mind that the 5-year-old constantly, incessantly talks, he cannot be quiet, and Frankie's the opposite. So Frankie's got all this noise coming his way. So Reggie speaks for both of them a lot. So I decided that it would be better for me if he came home, but not the best thing for Frankie to spend night at home. It would only be me satisfying my own emotional losses, but it would probably not be the best thing for Frankie, even though he might say home to me, and I say, no, you sleep at Winter House now, and he's like, oh yeah, of course I do. So I haven't had him home for an overnight, and I'm so glad that I haven't done that, because I think that might be more confusing for him. He accepts that he stays at Winter House. He knows that he likes it here. It's the right thing. I come over in the evenings, and when he's had enough of me, he says, go, bye. And I have to go. And I'm like, oh, you've had enough of me. And it's great. And I leave immediately. So he's not asking, he's not crying, he's not distressed. His behaviour tells me he's so happy. And vocational qualifications, training we touched on earlier, I was just thinking about all the things that are offered here that I know he can do all of those actually. Land-based, he loves a petrol strimmer, he loves a lawnmower, he loves to cook, he loves to clean, he loves to make tea and toast for everybody. So he's going to just do so well. And yeah, I've got prize court, and I won the lottery. So I'm very, 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 very lucky. Yeah, thank you.
That's brilliant. Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. Yeah,
what a journey.
It's great to hear.
Yeah.
He's doing brilliantly.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. So lucky.
Great.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Fab young man.
Time for just one more?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
God, we all talk then, don't we?
That's great. The questions we haven't managed to ask, we will put to you after and email the answers out if anyone's interested. But I thought we would just touch on another side of our learning, which is the vocational side. So Helen, I don't know if you could just give us a rundown on the types of vocational learning that we've got here and why it's important.
Yeah. So often, because we do work with our most complex youngsters, they've kind of been written off that they can't contribute something to the community, to the society. So we work really hard on those vocational skills, and we have tailored and we've adapted it, haven't we, over the years from quite a wide range, and we've kind of brought it down into three key areas. So the first one is readiness to work. So that's things like being able to get up on time, wearing the right clothes for the right job, being able to wear PPE if you need to. What else is there? The fire drill. being able to respond to an emergency. So those are kind of like key work skills. And then we have two areas. One is land-based. So that might be things like mowing, raking, planting, maintenance, so painting basic fences. And then the other one is hospitality. So think about anything that you might get in a hospital. So that might be conference services. So it might be setting up a room. It might be food and beverage. We are, along with our Performing Arts Centre, we're hoping to have a cafe that our young people will serve drinks and things. So they're currently learning those skills. But again, that also takes into their life skills because it helps with making their own food, sandwich, toast, at whatever level they're able to. What else do we have? Making beds, hoovering, housekeeping, delivery, that sort of thing. And then alongside that, I'm going to fit two questions into one, is that we have the ASDAN accreditation. So we've done a bespoke package so that then rather than our formal qualifications, they will get a certificate and they're linked to our skill acquisition and our I CAN statement. So they might get a readiness to work certificate, module, and it will have on the back the things that they've been able to achieve at the level that they've been able to achieve them.
Perfect. That's great. I wish we could go into it more. I'm so sorry. We always go over on this kind of stuff. It's so interesting.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Thank you so much. And yeah, as Amy said, I feel like I've learned a lot there as well. So yeah, thank you. And yeah, we'll send you over the other questions if that's okay, and if you can give us your answers. And if anyone has any questions they were hoping to ask, if you let us know, and then we'll get the answers and send them to you.
Just a quick one about your ASDAN qualification.
Yes.
Did you develop that with ASDAN then?
We did. They have. We used to do their modules, but what we found we were doing was that we were teaching to the modules, and therefore it was like, well, let's do a quick ASDAN thing rather than it kind of flowing into what we were delivering. And so they do have a. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but anyway, you can then they still have to approve it and accredit it, and it still has to be sent off for them in the way that the standard ones are. But yes, you can then create your own bespoke ones.
That was the problem with the pre-entry curriculum. I think it was very descriptive and it was difficult to build a personalised learning.
That's what we found, yeah.
And I think really important to add in there that, we have our on-site bakery, and we wrote a whole training package for that, that actually, when we did work with an external baker, to make sure that we got that right. He used to turn around and say, I could actually do this myself. This is brilliant. Because we'd broken everything down into the smallest step possible. We call it the sort of I CAN steps, and they'd build and build and build. But the whole folder, he said, that's a wonderful package for someone who wants to go into baking. But what we find with our young people is they'll be good at a particular area of it, so we can then develop their skills in that area. And that doesn't mean that they have to do the whole thing, because they might not be able to do that. But we can say, actually, when it comes to bread and slicing bread, that's that. But muffins, no, because they like the chocolate too much. That sort of thing. Yeah.
And again, with the vocational learning, we're looking at work experience or work placements, but not for a whole week, or it might be an hour once a week or something like that. But it's still, we all have our identity with our jobs and what we're good at, so it's kind of building on that.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah.